Imagine a heist so audacious it didn't involve breaking into a bank vault, but rather siphoning hundreds of millions of dollars directly from the pockets and dinner tables of American families. This is a staggering reality of the Minnesota fraud scandal, a perfect scheme that has sent shockwaves through the Department of Justice. But first, if you enjoy our content, please support us by subscribing, liking, and ringing that notification bell so you never miss any of our new videos. Attorney General Pam Bondi recently pulled back the curtain on this massive operation, giving a massive nod to independent investigator Nick Shirley for doing the legwork that local officials seemingly refuse to touch. We aren't just talking about a few missing dollars here, we're talking about a systematic exploitation of government programs where the scale of theft is almost too hard to wrap your head around.
I wanted to bring this up with you as well because, she essentially referenced your family, your son. She says, this is Attorney General Pam Bondi of the DOJ. Nick Shirley's work has helped show Americans the scale of fraud in Tim Walz's Minnesota. The Justice Department has been investigating this for months. So far, we have charged 98 individuals, 85 of Somali descent, and more than 60 have been found guilty in court. Obviously, it's not a one-off, but when you see this, the Department of Justice, the AG, noting that your son helped this federal investigation, how does that make you as a mother, and really ultimately as you are very passionate about what you do as an investigator, how does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel proud that what we're doing is getting noticed, because the way I think of it is, if your house is burning down, are you going to try to stop the fire, or are you just going to let it burn? And our lawmakers in America have just let our country burn. They're the ones to blame. They're the ones who've allowed the Somalians to get away with it. The Somalians, they have a perfect scheme. They found out a perfect way to take taxpayer dollars. But the bottom line is, our government leaders are the ones who have allowed this to happen. Tim Walz knew this was going on, and instead of doing anything about it, he calls people that are trying to call it out, like my son Nick Shirley, a white supremacist. They're not saying, thank you for showing this. Thank you for showing what's going on. Instead, we're called white supremacists because we're trying to save our country. The people in Minnesota are thankful for this. Pam Bondi obviously is, because we're doing the work for them. They could have done this themselves, but it's literally taking people like me, my son. We're the ones out there showing what's going on because people are too afraid. Sorry, my voice is coming out.
To understand the gravity of this situation, you have to look at the cold, hard data being tracked by the Department of Justice. For months, federal investigators have been untangling a web that has already led to the charging of 98 individuals. The demographic breakdown is striking, with 85 of those charged being of Somali descent, highlighting a concentrated exploitation within a specific community network. This wasn't just a series of allegations that went nowhere. The evidence was so overwhelming that over 60 convictions have already been secured in court. These perpetrators weren't just getting by, they were using taxpayer-funded daycare and small business subsidies to fund lavish lifestyles. And this is just the most recent discovery of yet another service brimming with fraud. But the story takes a dark cinematic turn when you look at the political follow-up. As the fraud came to light, the response from leadership wasn't a thank you to the whistleblowers. Instead, it was a defensive strike. Governor Tampon Tim Walz has come under intense fire for his reaction to the investigation, with critics alleging that he used the ultimate political playbook tactic, labeling investigator Nick Shirley as a white supremacist.
Let me jump in, Brooke, if I can, because I wanted to just reference something or give my viewers a point of reference. Control, this is AA32. You alluded to Governor Walz pushing back on your son and labeling him a white supremacist. We have that. Here it is.
This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy, when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life.
This move has ignited a firestorm of controversy as Tim Walz is using race as a smokescreen to protect a specific community while the rest of the state's integrity burns to the ground. It raises a haunting question. Why would a leader wage war against those exposing a crime instead of the criminals themselves? Is it because maybe he relies on them to stay in power? After all, his re-election is coming up in November of this year, and the Somali community would no doubt vote for him if he created a scapegoat to protect them and allow those in that community, amongst others, to continue their fraudulent operations. Ultimately, this saga has transformed Minnesota into a battlefield of accountability versus ideology. The heart of the frustration lies in the feeling of abandonment felt by hardworking Minnesotans who see their money disappearing into a black hole of corruption while their leaders look the other way. This isn't just a local news story. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when the rule of law is sidelined for political optics. As the Department of Justice continues to rack up convictions, the curtain is being pulled back on a scandal that proves truth is much often stranger and more expensive than fiction. And this has been your daily dose of truth. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.